Good afternoon. Go ahead and get your snacks and dinner. And who provided the dinner? Thank you, DeLoss and your crew, for providing dinner for us. I appreciate that. Our workshop agenda for City Council and Planning Commission. We welcome our Planning Commission members and staff and guests to this meeting. Look forward to getting a lot done. This is a online meeting, and it's those of you that would like to watch it on YouTube. It is on washingtoncity.org/meetings. I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So made. Councilman Mundy.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Who in the back said aye?
Okay, we'll have item 2, discussion regarding the Green Spring PCD.
Mayor, if
City
I
Manager.
may take a moment, I work for Alliance Consulting and I will be abstaining from these conversation as a council member on this item. So, and I'll step down from the here.
Duly noted. Thank you.
Oh, you're going to.
All right, City Manager.
Well, thanks everybody for coming to the meeting tonight. I know Planning Commission had a meeting last night that wasn't short, so we appreciate your willingness to come 2 nights in a row, and thanks for accommodating that schedule. I think the point of the meeting tonight, we're starting a new PCD agreement for the Green Springs area, and the idea is to get the concept out in front of the City Council and the Planning Commission ahead of any actual, well, there's been a ton of work done, but ahead of any work that we can't move back from. So I think everything at this point is conceptual, and we're looking for sort of an informal discussion about any items that anyone has questions or concerns about. So we have Brooke Cole from GWC Capital, and I believe Brooke will be handling the majority of the presentation via the Zoom link. So Steve has got the technology working perfectly. We shouldn't have any glitches. So we'll turn it over to Brooke and whoever else he wants to have help him with the presentation.
Thank you, Jeremy. I assume the audio is coming through fine.
We can see you. We can see you and hear you.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you guys this evening. I make my sincerest apologies for not being there in person due to my oldest daughter graduating from college today from USU. It just happened to fall on the same day. So
Congratulations.
I appreciate the technology and Stephen for making this work for me to still be able to join you guys and to share with you our ideas for the Green Springs project this evening. And I echo your comments, Chairman, for Brenda and for Alliance there for providing dinner for everybody this evening. I hope you all enjoy that. There's plenty of other team members here in the room as well, and I'll introduce them just in a minute so that they're more than welcome to jump in and be part of this conversation and part of the presentation this evening, and they'll answer questions as well. But as Jeremy had mentioned, the main purpose for us requesting this meeting and wanting to get together with you all this evening is to share with you some of our initial concepts that we have been working on this project. I have, at least for the last 6 years, in contemplating developing and having the opportunity to develop this property, as well as our team internally over the last year, and then in meeting with the city staff since we were awarded the project through SITLA back in November and December of 2020. The goal here is to share with you these initial concepts and to get your comments and feedback before we make a formal presentation and submittal to the city that we hope incorporates your comments and your continued collaboration that we have shared so far with the city staff in preparing this initial comments and direction. As it has been pointed out to us from the very beginning, from the landowner and from many of the guests, or from the residents and city staff, this property is a pretty special piece of property that's left to be developed. And due to its special nature and location within the Washington City area and the community attributes that have to support it, it set up an incredible opportunity in our minds to create a premier mixed-use development that celebrates the art of outdoor living. And tonight we hope to share with you a taste of what that might be and what our development plan is that celebrates all of the stimulation of the senses, all 5 of them, through the taste, smell, touch, sight, and hearing. And our goal is to give you, as I've said before here, a taste of what living life outdoors could look like through the implementation of this development plan. The plan, as you all know, is only as good as the team members who are assembled to implement it. And we believe in working collaboratively with the Washington City and also with the land partner in SITLA. GWC will be the managing partner, who is an affiliate of the Clyde Companies. Many of you may know the Clyde Companies and some of our other businesses that operate in and around the state of Utah. We've been around for a little over 90 years and have now a little over 3,500 employees working throughout the Intermountain West in a variety of the companies, as you've seen here. Our other partners on this project are Blue Diamond Capital and the Mark Bingham family, and their representative companies here as well have been developing and playing a major philanthropic part of the Utah community for a number of years as well. Our other partner in this project is AMS Hospitality, which includes the Alan Morris Company, who's been in business for a little over 60 years developing real estate, commercial multifamily and mixed use developments of distinction, as well as Stormont Hospitality, who's been developing premier hotel properties over the last 30 years. And they're coming in and going to be our hotel development partner on this project for the hotel and for the resort. Our other team members who we couldn't do this without are the technical folks and the visionaries, the talent between Alliance Consulting, represented there this evening by DeLoss Hammond, and Langvart Design Group, represented there this evening by Eric Langvart. We appreciate their time and effort in helping us and their wealth of knowledge and experience that they bring to developing these types of communities. To give you an overview for those that are not familiar with the location of this property, it's located next to exit 13. It's really the remaining land north of the new Washington Parkway that was built here recently.
Brooke, we're not seeing your screen. Would you share your screen? I think you're showing.
So I was just going to mention to you, Brooke, is I don't know if Stephen can turn the slides or if you intended to have any of them on the screen for us.
Yeah, I thought we had this all worked out. I apologize, gentlemen.
Yeah, we can see that, Brooke. And if you just go full screen, we'll probably get it all. Perfect.
You all there? Okay. So you haven't seen any of my slides so far.
We
I
have
take it.
not.
I apologize. I apologize. I was thumbing through it as if you guys were all there with me. This is some of the imagery that I wanted to share with you as I was explaining our concept of what the art of outdoor living looks like, and giving you, as I mentioned, sorry for the pun, a taste of what living life outdoors could potentially be here in this development. These are some of the companies that GWC is affiliated with at Clyde Companies, as well as Blue Diamond Capital. And then, of course, our hotel partners here and the projects that they have been involved in or building now with Allen Morris Company and Stormont Hospitality, and then Alliance Consulting and Langbart Design Group. And then to the property screen. And I appreciate you interrupting and making sure that you could all see this. I know that this land in and around the Green Springs area has been master planned for many years, and that master plan has been implemented through the development of the Green Springs Golf Course, the Green Springs neighborhoods there around the wash, the Brio development, the stuff that Perry Homes has been doing, and then the new hospital and other things that are coming online. The area that's remaining there north of the Washington Parkway represents about 570 acres of land, which is the last piece I understand to be developed in this Green Springs block area. And in working with the staff as part of the presentation this evening, we wanted to show you, as Jeremy had mentioned, there is a lot of work that has been done to date, not only preceding us, but since we were awarded the project, and meeting with the staff and really truly understanding what the constraints and the opportunities are related to the property, the infrastructure, and a lot of the previous work that has been done in this area. As you can see here, it's about the 1st of May, the green line that's running north, running up and down the page is where we're at in this overall process. We're trying to create a timeline that works for everybody, including the appropriate time for the staff to review and to prepare the documents and then to incorporate your comments and in directions as well into the overall plan before it becomes to the city sometime in late July for the actual processing to start. The goal is to finish this up sometime in October. So we're getting started a little early here, but hopefully it helps the process as we move forward. The plan itself is an aggressive plan, we believe, but we believe in being aggressive creates great rewards. The vision for the property is to embrace the natural features that already exist there and apply timeless community design principles. These will be the guiding forces behind the development of this Green Springs planned resort community. Our goal is to have it become one of the region's premier destinations for active lifestyle. One of the goals in putting forth this vision, though, is to make it to be comprehensive, have it to be authentic, and have it to be resort oriented and hospitality centric, as Washington City and the rest of the Washington County area already is to the residents and guests who get to visit there. We have some specific goals outlined as well, and how they relate to the development pattern is to really find a balanced approach between private and public community amenities, and the design approach has to have a thorough understanding of the property's constraints and opportunities to achieve this balance. There are three main areas in which the property will be developed to provide this balance: in the traditional residential villages, in some estate villages, and then also in the resort and the club village area where the guests will primarily be located. The team has spent a lot of time, and I would just quickly go through some of these things in understanding the capacities for the land, what has previously been planned for here in this area in relation to densities, into the infrastructure that has already been put in place related to power, water, sewer, road networks, all of those things, which have been taken into consideration to create a map here that shows the area and the intensity of uses as where we intend them to be located, in a similar fashion as was done in the overall master plan for the Green Springs area when that was initially developed back in the early 2000s. The purple areas reflect the highest use areas, the highest intensity of use. The yellows are the medians, and the low are the more orange. And then there in the center is some neighborhood commercial, some boutique commercial that would support the traditional village. As you can see, the highest intensity of uses are kept internally and then radiate outward so that they have less impact on the surrounding existing landowners. Within these intensities of uses, you can see here the resort area is highlighted here in purple. The commercial is the interaction between the resort and the yellow that's denoted as in yellow, and then more of the estate residential on the periphery of the project. In more particular, in the resort area, our goal here is to create a highly amenitized club area where a luxury upscale hotel with conference facilities and meeting facilities can be located, as well as resort residential, probably more commonly referred to there locally as the nightly rentals, would happen here within this general location. As you can see, some of the pictures here are depicting some of the resort amenities and the style that we are anticipating to develop. In the resort hotel facility itself, in working with AMS Hospitality, we've come up with a program to have about 160 hotel rooms and 80 resort casitas that are essentially larger more formatted, detached hospitality suites, so that as the multi-generation families travel with one another, they have a larger, more bedrooms to stay in together, as opposed to individual hotel rooms. Once again, depicting some of the different styles. Core to the resort and the resort offering is its food and beverage, and our desire to bring a farm to table restaurant style to the project, wherein the food in the gardens themselves surrounding the resort can be produced and served at the table there at the different restaurants that would accompany the resort. And as part of that farm to table experience is we're including the eatertainment, where the guests have an opportunity to harvest their own plants throughout the garden, to be guided around by a master gardener and chefs, and learning how to cook using these local ingredients as well. The cooking school would be included as part of that, wherein the chefs, not only here within the hotel, but other guest chefs could come and teach classes as well, from cheese making to pairing of the foods with beverages, handmade pastas and other items. The gardens themselves are open to the public to come in and to work and be a part of, and to really understand where our food comes from. Not only did they beautify the property itself, but create an excellent experience prior to eating and after. Within the hotel complex itself too, there would be large pools for relaxing and enjoying the good sunny weather there in the area, as well as a full service spa. There are case precedents for this, and one of them that we've been focusing on and modeling this after is one called Alwelstoren in South Africa, where they've implemented a lot of these similar ideas and concepts into a resort and hospitality experience. A few more images of what we anticipate it looking like in the look and the feel. And the public gardens as well. Surrounding the resort and the area is a traditional and commercial village that is really centered around walkability and excuse me. And a more livable neighborhood that is centered around public parks. If you think of examples like Savannah, where there's public squares and public parks that are within close walking distance to almost every residential residential unit, is what we anticipate developing throughout here. To have a variety of housing types and styles, attached and detached, in this walkable neighborhood is our goal. The support commercial that would be just adjacent to this residential neighborhood would be the buffer that is denoted here in the pink between them and the resort area. And on the flanks of the development, as it radiates up from the core, as we discussed earlier, is more of the estate residential.
I don't know if you want us to ask questions as we go along, or if you want us to hold those to the end.
If you're more than welcome to interrupt, go right ahead.
Well, can you help me understand a little bit more about the buffering that you were explaining there on the last slide?
This slide here.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm. When I said buffering, I said the commercial right here creates a buffer between the resort uses here and the traditional neighborhood uses here, where they all use the same uses in between each other, as opposed to having the resort right next door to the residential, where there may be potential conflicts.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Good question. Thank you. And please feel free to interrupt if you'd like. As I mentioned here, the more estate residential, as we get out to the surrounding periphery of the project, becomes lower intensity and lower in density to match some of the existing land patterns that are already there in the Green Springs area. Key to having all of these uses work together is the amenity and recreational plan. And while we intend for all of these uses to be on this property, we also intend for there to be over 40% of the land to remain in open space. One of the main reasons why folks come to St. George and in the Washington City area and Washington County is to enjoy all of the open space and the recreational opportunities that are available. Key to that would be maintaining it on this property as well, and not just relying only on the public lands that surround it. Part to that is an active trail network, one connecting to and from the rest of the Washington City area along the Washington Parkway. as well as internal loops of public access getting to and from some of the existing trailheads that enter into the desert tortoise lands that are there to the north, particularly through the Mill Creek trailhead here in this area, through the Dino Cliffs trailhead here, and also through the probably most popular one is the Grapevine trailhead here next to exit 13. All of those access points would be maintained and enhanced through this development is what we're proposing here, as well as developing a city park here on the project as well. And one of the ideas that we'd like to put forward this evening for consideration is for the developer to build these in collaboration with the city on these 3 trailheads, as well as the city park, and seek for impact fee reimbursements once they are built and dedicated to the city. Another thing that we'd like to discuss and ask for input on is in facilitating this 40 acres or 40% open space. Not all of it is irrigated, but a good portion of it could be. And one of the things that we'd like to understand and be supporting of is the city's desire to create a secondary water system. And this property could be used to as a reservoir for a lot of that secondary water. And we would like to support that and use that if possible to build a golf course and to irrigate the other public parks and public areas and private parks that would be located on this property. We believe in conserving the resource as far as possible, using water in the right areas, and then seeking additional sources where necessary. In one of our other projects there in the Washington County area called Desert Color, we were able to use 50% less water through our landscape architecture designs, site layout, lot layouts, and through the further development of the secondary water source throughout the whole community at Desert Color.
So before you leave off that topic there, can you help me understand? So are you asking the city to develop a secondary water? I'm not sure what you're stating there.
Thank you. We understand that the city is looking at developing a secondary water system. And what I guess I'm asking and suggesting is that we're highly in favor of doing that. And if we'd like to be a part or a catalyst in making that come to fruition, if we can develop that here on this property with the city.
Thank you.
In particular.
One other question, sorry. Would you talk a little further about impact fee reimbursement, what that entails and what the expectation is? Just a little bit more about that, please.
Yeah, I sure can. It's through the Parks and Recreation fees that are paid. We understand that those are used to build parks and trailheads that are denoted on the city's master plans, for which there are several that are located on this property. And if typically impact fees are collected as the property is developed over time, and then once enough is aggregated together, then a public park or a trailhead can be built. What we are proposing to do is to come in on the forefront and have the developer build those trailheads and build that city park as part of the development in the beginning, and then be reimbursed based on the costs associated with building those with the impact fees that would be paid to the city when building permits are issued. That way they're built sooner and help create value long-term as opposed to being built after all the development is done.
So essentially then those amenities would be available much sooner to the residents then.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Hey, Brooke, Councilman Staley here. How would you access or provide access to the trailheads during construction? A lot of these look to be on the inward or backside of the development. Have you given some thought to that? I mean, if you're going to build some of these initially, how are you going to provide public access during construction?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's one that we've been working there with Drew and with Jeremy on, and we're committed to provide public access as much as we can in and around construction. That may be focused on developing this one here first so that folks have access to it and have access to the trails and whatnot. But while construction's, say, going in and around here, it may be temporarily unavailable. But then as soon as the construction's finished, then of course the trailhead and everything will be opened back up. One of the main things that we'd like to look at, and we'll show you in a couple of slides, is to go ahead and build this major loop road to begin with as phase one that provides adequate public access instead of just following the old water lines or power line transmission lines to this central Mill Creek trailhead right here.
I appreciate that. And then if now is a good time to address it or throughout the rest of your presentation, I'd love to hear as many details about water and water sources from you and or staff as you go along.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm prepared to talk about sources as much as a desire from us to implement a wet water system that can, instead of just having dry pipes run throughout the system, but to actually have wet water and to provide storage areas. We've kind of denoted a couple of areas where we think there's some decent storage opportunities from a reservoir perspective that could be used to not only irrigate this property, but also prime the irrigation system for the rest of the city as well. Let me defer to DeLost or to the staff if they're there, if they would like to answer your other part of that question any further.
I'll take a stab at it. I'll look back there at Mike, but as Brooke described, I think that the idea would be to be the first one out of the gate with wet water in the pipe. So there's a commitment to not only produce the land or the location, but the facility itself, because there is the opportunities here again with the scale of the project, working in conjunction with the sources available from the city to produce the water and keep the impact fee here. So rather than pay the impact fee to the district where they might be using a regional lake, Warner Valley, we could utilize the impact fee that would be directly in the city. And that's following the pathway that we've led at Desert Color. So for instance, Desert Color we're right now under construction, building a irrigation pond or an irrigation lake. And as that it receives reuse water from the St. George City wastewater treatment plant, and it has the potential to blend it with canal water and water from Gunlock. So we have 3 sources of water plumbed to the lake, and depending on what is readily available from the city's inventory, it's put in the pond or the lake, and then consequently pumped out and pressurized to the community-wide irrigation system that goes to each individual home. So as such, at Desert Color, then one impact fee from the district is the equivalent of, well, it's the other way around. 2 houses in Desert Color use the water equivalent of 1 impact fee elsewhere, because half of it is used as irrigation, non-treated, and the other half is culinary. So it's the idea of coming together and working with the staff. And we've had some initial discussions with Mike, and I know he has some ideas that need to be refined, and we have some that need to be refined in coming back to you all with actually a plan that says, hey, here's this water inventory that we can use, and we can put this water to use, even if it's at a short-term situation, because we can actually, as we described, multiple sources in the other pond, we can use multiple sources here, and We don't, for instance, if the city has a source that's not available full-time, we don't have to have it full-time. We can put it in the pond, use it as storage, and put it in the distribution system. There's going to be a low demand in this project initially for a number of years as the homes get built up. But what that does is it provides, if we can work together and utilize the impact fee, then it will essentially extend the culinary water source into the future for other developments or for this development and others in Washington City. And I know that you've had for a number of years, the developers put in dry irrigation systems. And I think what Brooke's saying is he's committed to help tie those together with this storage. So we're at a higher elevation with this property. And so it could provide the storage and the pressure for the rest of the community. He's not, it wouldn't have to be exclusive to Green Springs. You know, it could go across the freeway and serve the existing part of town and even out into the fields if needs be. And we haven't, like I say, we haven't refined all these ideas, but certainly had enough discussion with Mike that we wanted to bring it to you and see if it was something you would support and if you wanted to move forward with it. And I think it also ties back in, and Brooke will talk a little bit more about the potential for the golf course and whether that if there's support for the golf
So
course.
you're talking primarily on the secondary water system, right? Not the primary culinary system, or are you talking both?
Relative to the golf?
Well, no, just so if I understanding that you want, I'm not familiar with the details with Desert Color, but and maybe we're getting too deep right now, but I'm just thinking through the fact that you're asking for to not be part of the water district impact fee.
We're still part of the water district impact fee. It's and Mike can explain this better than I can as far as your relationship with the district. But each city, if they have a irrigation system that's operated by the municipality, then there's a portion of that impact fee that stays with the city. So for instance, St. George, there's a portion of that impact fee of the county impact fee that stays with St. George if they have an operable irrigation system. In turn, St. George has worked with Brooke's group, and Brooke has funded the money up front, the capital to build the system, and is taking impact fee credits. It's there's more than one way to cut it up, but essentially that's the idea.
So DeLoss, my thought is just more or less a comment. And we don't want to get down into too much detail, or really probably can't at this point. But as you're probably aware, if you've talked with our public works with Mr. Shaw and others, you're probably aware that there's a lot of talk right now about conservation measures, and it's more the quantity, especially when you're looking at a development of this magnitude. Those conservation measures are going to be something that you're going to have to look at. And where you've worked at Desert Color, I'm sure you're probably conscious of that, but I think that's something you're going to have to be thinking about because it's a hot topic right now. I don't know, others probably know more about it than I do, but I just having been in a couple of meetings and some of the discussion, conservation measures is going to be extremely important. As I see Brooke's presentation, and I know some of that's garden, but there's a lot of green shown there, and everybody loves green, but in reality, it may not be looking like that. And so I just a cautionary thing that, what is the build out time of this development approximately in years before it's fully built, anticipated to be built out? Do you have just a rough idea?
You're looking 15 to 20 years.
Okay, so if we say 20 years, in another 10 years, water is going to be more crucial. And so, so when you look at the long-term projects, and again, one of this magnitude with, some of the things that are proposed, golf course, we burn millions of gallons a day, drop for golf courses. And so just that idea of conservation is going to be important. So,
I think you're absolutely right. And as you described, I think it's going to become a bigger and bigger issue, or hotter and hotter topic. I think that's two they're interconnected, but two distinct issues. A, the consumption, the amount of water that we're using, and then B, the quality of water that we're using, culinary versus irrigation. And certainly different issues, but they're interconnected, and we have the ability to save on both. And you mentioned the golf course. As far as, I think it would be worthy to work with staff and see how much water the city course is currently using and what might be able to be done to pull it back and pump some of that water maybe into the city, irrigation system. And it's close. I mean, if you look here, it's not much of a pipe to bring it from Green Springs, the golf course over here to this reservoir. And that might be the impetus to get wet water in the rest of the system. And so maybe there's an opportunity to save there. Certainly in contemplating the golf course here, it would be a water wise course, but and I'll leave it up to, I think that's one of the discussions, and I'll leave it up to Brooke to get into it, but I think he's very interested in hearing your take or your perspective on the golf, because it's a hot topic. Certainly we would never anticipate irrigating it with culinary water, and there would never be a desire to do that. I know that in the design standards that's being developed and will be proposed, that water conservation is high on the list. I can predict that this development will use substantially less water than the average residents in the existing, Washington City. There's a lot of technologies that are out there, and I think that where there's a will, there's a way, and the developer's committed to it, and he's going to be building those facilities, and that usage is certainly important. And one of the things that I think is really on our mind from the engineering standpoint, along with the development, is we would like to see wet water in there from the get-go. We'd like to see the irrigation system functioning, because that's the key to getting the reduction in the impact fee. So it's not, it's already set up. It's like we're not going to the district and asking them to do anything different than they've already agreed to. We would follow whatever agreements you already have with the district. We didn't have to go and modify any agreements with St. George City. They were already in place with the district, but it was just the first time that they had been utilized. And so I think this would probably be the first project in Washington where they got utilized.
Well, and I can appreciate your desire to have that. I'm not 100% sure how close we are to that. I mean, we're taking our second stab at cost justifying and even water source justifying secondary water in the area here. We weren't able to pencil it out the first time, and we're not done with it this second go around. Last time was what was it? Wasn't quite 10 years ago, Mike. About 10 years ago. So we're kind of revisiting this. So I guess, I don't know. I guess my question mostly is just to say, like, I have a lot of questions about this, maybe to staff. I almost think there could be an entire other meeting about water and getting that done. But I'm concerned about the amount of other topics that need to come forward. But what are we thinking? Is this something we could maybe put together almost another meeting on? And because we would need updates on our current system or where we're at with how that's coming along. There, we would have to. The last time I checked, we had a report from staff. We were needing to find more creative and better ways to actually completely water a secondary system. Yes, he says. So do we want to table the watering for now and go on and maybe create another meeting with that? I just have almost nothing but questions, and I could take up a lot of tonight's time with them. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Well, we'd love to take you up on the opportunity to do that. I think the thing we're trying to communicate, and I'd like to communicate to you, is that you have a willing land development partner here to try to make that come to fruition, if possible. And if possible, we'd like to use that water to do the golf course. If it's not possible and the water's not available from a secondary perspective to do the golf course, then we probably would take the golf course out. Because as you mentioned, conserving the resource is probably paramount since day one of somebody moving to that valley to begin with, and will continue to be so as far as whenever people live there. So
That answers a big question for me, but it also leads into several others. I mean, like, are you interested in trying to reclaim and clean sewage water for water intercourse? But like I say, we can go on quite a bit from that. Maybe we could, yeah.
we definitely need more follow up on that, but just understand you have a willing partner who's trying to conserve water as best we can and limit its use in the outdoor from a culinary perspective. In Desert Color, as DeLoss mentioned, we've been able to reduce that by half of a typical residence. And therefore, we're able to do 2 houses for every one everywhere else, as far as providing culinary water. And with the further localized, water-wise landscaping standards and limited amount of space available to be watered in each of the residences, even the secondary water is used as a fraction of what it would be in normal areas. So we appreciate the opportunity to discuss that further and look forward to it.
Could I, if I could, just to shift away from water, just a general question, and I don't know if my staff may know the answer to this as well, but you're showing the 3 trailheads into the Red Cliffs Desert Reserve area. One, as you're aware, the city had plans to do the Elephant Arch trailhead at one time, and it's kind of on hold because of this your development. But I'm just curious about, obviously that goes into the Red Cliffs Desert Reserve. There has been some communication, I assume, with the Red Cliffs Desert Reserve and, creating trailheads where individuals are going to be hiking, what have you, into the Red Cliffs. Is there any reservation on the Red Cliff Desert Reserve's part for that? Or are they have a positive view of that? Or
Yes, in the discussions we've had, there's actually a positive attitude towards it because they like having being controlled.
okay.
And they like having the trailheads for the restroom facilities and the parking, and produce some safety there and order. They've had the potential issues on other properties. It's like Sitla having some of the same issues on access to the property with ATVs and things of that nature. And then we've been really sensitive to where we've put them. We're not asking for any trail locations that aren't already marked on their plan. I think there was a question here.
But it looks like all your trailheads are in the gated community areas. At least those 2 up top. The 2 up top for sure.
Brian, will you speak? Thank you. Introduce yourself for the record.
This is Brian Musso on the Planning Commission. As I scrolled down further and it shows where your gated areas are, it looks like the trailheads are located in your gated community sections.
Yeah, I can speak to that. They actually are not, and they are intentionally. If you look at this exhibit, the red trails and then the smaller red trails are actually public access. And so all of those are specifically outside of the gated areas.
Well, pull up the roads that shows where your gated community section is and how do you get to it then?
Okay. Brooke, do you want to pop to that one now? Yeah. So right there, you can see the green roads are public access.
Right. Where's your trailheads?
At the top one, it's the green turnaround right there. Yep. Thanks, Brooke.
Okay. Where's the second one?
The second one is in the resort, and it is mislabeled on here. It is a public access into that portion of the resort. It is a private road, but would have just for maintenance, right, Greg? Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, and then the bottom right one there, the green, is a public road there that would get you to that trailhead. So we were very, very careful to make sure that was being accommodated.
And how much parking do you have for the trailheads?
Those are actually, we've looked at the northern, we're working with the jurisdictions. We actually have a plan there that we actually provided more parking, and I don't remember the number, Brooke, but we have not designed the other 2, but we'll work with the jurisdiction to make sure that we have the amount that they need. The plan we did on the north one there, we were actually able to provide more than the minimum and actually do some, larger, RV or pull through kind of kind of stalls. So we think that what we proposed there actually worked, better than they were anticipating in their initial program and scope. And I think we would obviously provide the minimums on the other two as we get into that design phase. And as I think mentioned before too, that, the restroom facilities would be a major component of that, which, and then the control on the access on each one of those, would be a win-win, I think, for everybody.
Is there a follow-up question to that, or did we answer your question?
No, I was just telling Councilman Ward here, I said the concern that I would have just as you're planning through this is just that, access to the Red Cliffs Desert Reserve should be for all of the community. And so I would hope that rather than just thinking about a minimum number of parking spaces, that you think about how to have this access be open and inviting to the public with plenty of parking, because that outdoor recreation is something that should be available to, all of the community, not just those who can afford to live and recreate in this development. So that's just something that I would like to see as it comes forward, is just adequate parking, adequate signage. The Mill Creek one, the Elephant Arch is popular, and I'm excited about the other two. That's something that's important to me.
Yeah, absolutely. We 100% agree.
Thank you.
This is Commissioner Anderson. I'm a little bit concerned, particularly about the one in the middle, the second one, where it's going in on a private road, that it's going to feel like it's sort of exclusive to those people living there. I think it like Councilman Staley said, I think it needs to be more inviting, where it feels like it's part of the public open space rather than, an exclusive trailhead to this neighborhood. So even if it is technically open to the public, if it's on a private road and it's a narrower road than normal and it's tucked away and so forth, it can feel like it's not available to the public. Particularly if we're looking at any sort of impact fee credits or anything like that. I mean, the whole point of that is that it's going to benefit the whole city, not just the people living here.
Well, it is going to benefit the whole city. And then you've got a gated community, which a lot of the folks that are moving in those gated communities have a high sensitivity about who is in there. And so you have the potential for some kind of culture clashes there. So I'd hope that we would kind of think through that a little bit. And,
This is Commissioner Musso again. I had another question about the product mix that you're planning, that you have in the red section or your high density section. From what I was looking at, there's over 1,000 units that's going to be in that. Are those all nightly rental units and hotel unit, or are they going to be privately owned residences in that section too? Because your density is 12 per.
It's a combination of the two. So that includes the hotel rooms and includes the hotel large format key casitas, as well as the secondary residential too, that could serve as either the nightly rental or just a secondary homes.
So are the nightly rentals going to be sold off to private individuals, and then, or is it going to be controlled by the hotel association itself?
Yeah, they'll be sold off to private individuals and then managed by the hotel and as part of the resort and the club.
And how much of your resort design and plan design is contingent upon gaining a nightly rental overlay for that area? I think, there was a period of time when this area really needed to market itself and really needed to kind of sell itself, to grow and to get things going. That is not our problem right now. And I worry a little bit about, overdoing selling. And I mean, you can sell your product however you want, but overdoing selling on the resort type community of this. I mean, in a lot of ways, we need folks with jobs, and we need to attract, housing and the things that stabilize a community. I wonder if it's potential to overdo, on marketing to a resort. But my specific question is how much of your project is contingent upon gaining that nightly rental overlay?
Well, the resort and the hotel component would need it for sure.
That wouldn't have anything to do with the hotel component, right?
The resort component of it in this area here.
The nightly rental.
Yeah. Well, it would change the composition of the project if it was not there, related to the size and the amount of amenities that would be needed to accommodate that particular use. So if it's not available to us, or if it's reduced down for some reason, then the amenities would be reduced down as well.
So help me understand that size reduction and what you're thinking would be reduced from there. And I know that's a tough, big question, but
No, it's a great question. So it's just a matter of the utilization of the amenities, right? And so in providing a highly amenitized project like this, you try to create it such that the amenities are sufficient and broad enough that it appeals to a large variety of folks, and that there is enough available for people to do that they don't feel like they're on top of one another, either whether you're living here in the community full-time or it's part-time as a visitor. And so if the amount of nightly rentals or the resort area, that those numbers are reduced, then you don't build as many amenities to support that use.
well, I know, previous council introduced the nightly rental overlay. And then very quickly there was just maybe some kickback by even those who championed that and brought it forward from the development community. And now we're really struggling with trying to get housing in the area. And it seems in many ways to be directly competing with individuals who are just trying to find a place to rent, trying to find a place to live. And I'm not certain that we have struck upon, well, and then the whole area region wide really turned that open, and there just became a lot of that here. I'm not certain that we have that in Washington, that we really have those rules and regulations in order to correctly long-term benefit from live with our nightly rentals. So anyways.
Brooke, what stage of the development generally is the resort area? Does it come first, or does it come after a lot of the residential?
Yeah, it's another great question. So I think to answer that, and piggybacks a little bit off of the previous question. So basically the first phase of development would start here with some resort, with the hotel, and with some residential all at the same time. As I mentioned at the beginning, it's finding the right balance between the two. And we want to bring both on, all three of those products on at the same time, so that all three of those groups of people can utilize the amenities. You need all three. You can't just rely on one versus the other to make them sustainable. So I think maybe go back and there may be, say, 1,000 units, including the hotel rooms and everything associated with the resort and the nightly rental piece, but that leaves the other 1,500 plus or minus for traditional residential and estate residential, whether that's in a primary or a secondary format. And predominantly here in this area is where the highest intensity and uses are. That would include a mix of product types of attached and detached, so that you can hit the different attainable housing thresholds as well.
Brooke, can you please elaborate on that? I'm looking at that village section right now, medium density, 8 units. Can you just elaborate on what you vision there as far as attached? And obviously anything detached would be quite small, but I'd just like to hear a little bit more what the vision is for that area.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's an integrated neighborhood in that different product types are not isolated to one part of the neighborhood or another, but they're integrated together. So you would have attached housing right next to detached. You'd have some even stacked housing in and around some of the squares as they're next to some of the more open areas. but you're talking anywhere from attached housing, townhouses up to, probably 7,000 to 8,000 square foot lots.
So part of that mix, when you say stacked housing, might be apartments or condos, there might be duplexes, there might be townhomes and single standing homes.
Yes. Yeah. You try to hit at least 6 to 8, at least in the neighborhoods that we've seen successful. Try to hit 6 to 8 different types of products within that area, all at different price points and different sizes, so that as people move up and down within their life cycle, they don't have to leave the neighborhood. There's different products there for them, depending on where they're at in their life cycle.
Brooke, could I ask a specific question, just of curiosity again? Along Washington Parkway, midway up, there's where it has the text for potential irrigation pond. Not that that's the pond, but that area in white there, what will the nature of that? It looks like there's an access to it off from Washington Parkway. What will that?
This area right here.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. We're proposing it to be the same type of development as what is being proposed here in the neighborhood, traditional neighborhood. And these are smaller. They're smaller lots. They're smaller footprints, which creates less water usage on the exterior and congregates it more to the neighborhood parks and the neighborhood civic areas, which goes into the whole water planning component of it. But it also, when we're putting that density here, it's preserving a lot of the other land around it as well. And while all this green area here may not be irrigatable, it's still open space and provides a visual buffer and a recreational opportunity for a lot of folks to use as well. So they're highly concentrated neighborhoods here, and then less so as you move out into the periphery here and here. Not so much they are still concentrated, but they're just less dense as you move further and further away.
This is Commissioner Anderson. Question for you, Brooke. So on the estate lots, like what are the sizes on those? Because it seems like those are the only like single family residences, really. I mean, these other areas that we're talking about, the medium density, I mean, it's not really, I mean, you said it's a traditional neighborhood, but I don't think it's really a traditional neighborhood. It's more of it's a multifamily, or at best a cottage home type of thing, and so, I mean, are the estate lots, are they the traditional, residents, or are they big estates, and it doesn't seem like we have much actual traditional, single family residence here.
Yeah, I'd be happy to show this in more detail as we come back and further detail this out. But for instance, in the Desert Color neighborhood, there's lots of larger lots and smaller attached product all within the same area here. So there is traditional residential in here. These areas, as you move out into here, they're more the 10,000 plus size. 10,000 to probably half acre is the general size of the estate residential as you move to either side. And then, as I mentioned before, in here you'll have 8,000 square foot lots in here, and then smaller down to attached or stacked as well.
Okay, so I guess then the what's labeled as estate lots would be more what we would call traditional single family, 10,000 to 12,000 ish. At least for what we have here, that would be more traditional single family homes.
Okay. Thank you for the questions and for the comments related to these things. Is there anything else before we proceed? Okay. The other component to a lot of to having tighter cores of development is to provide all of the recreational area and the different types of passive and active recreational opportunities on that remaining 40% of land that we'd like to keep as open space. As you can see here, we anticipate a lot of active stuff happening there in the city park, as well as a lot of interconnected trails to not only within the community, but connecting to the rest of the Washington City as well through the trail along the parkway there. And then some areas where you just leave it the way it is so that you can go and we talked about the different senses earlier on. One of the best senses for me anyway is not much happening, and turn the cell phone off and just sit and relax and listen to nothing. And I think there are opportunities to do that here on the property as well and have value. Some of the last couple of items here that we just wanted to note and get further input on is we are following the access management plan for the Washington County or the Washington Parkway here, and limiting the number of accesses into the project. We know that the traffic is a concern, and traffic will always be a concern, regardless of any size of development, and working with the city staff to make sure that the long-term viability of this road functions the way it needs to, as well as to service some of the existing intersections and things that are there today. I think as was mentioned earlier, we are looking for a balance of private and public access in and throughout the project. And as was denoted here in green, is all of the public roads, as well as providing public access to the public areas instead of burying them back in the furthest corners, trying to keep them out along public corridors. Notably these two. And then if there is a gated component of it within the resort hotel area here, it would be actually inside of the public roads that would access to and from the hotel and the spa and the gardens and everything else associated here. The other thing that we're putting in for consideration as well is the type of road cross sections, and to support not only the vehicular use, but also the pedestrian use and the different type of trail sections on the sides of the roads as well. And there's probably a lot of technical detail here, but these will be some of the cross sections that we would like to put forward that respond to the topography and the type of use that it would be supporting.
Hey, Brooke, just a question here for you. I'm looking at this slide you're on here. It looks like a lot of those gated community areas are, I'm guessing, private streets, 35-foot width. Can you just help me understand? Are you looking at traditional sidewalks, or what are you looking at on the sides of those? And what was your logic with going with a little bit narrower roads through there than your traditional 50?
Yeah, let me defer to the experts that are sitting there with DeLoss and Eric. I think they can explain that a little bit better for you.
Yeah, thank you. I think and DeLoss and Craig clarify this, I think the road width is still the same, but what we've done is actually shrunk the sidewalks. I shouldn't say shrunk them. We've moved them just to the back of the curb, so that it's a combination of not having a landscaped park strip, but having the landscape actually behind the sidewalks. And what that will allow us to do is, in those areas is where we have more of the topography. It allows us to be a little more nimble through that and maybe not have quite as wide of a total platform. And correct me if I'm wrong, DeLoss, I don't have that open. I can't remember the right-of-way widths, but I think that the pavement and the curb and gutter itself is the same as the public traditional village roads. It's just that from the back of the curb out that we've shrunk it down to help with the grading and the terrain. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So how do the sidewalks tie in? Are they like right on next to curb and gutter then, or are they?
Correct. Yeah. And it's in an area that a lot of those lots are already adjacent to open space and other, internal trails. And so the sidewalk itself would be right behind the curb. But we have chosen to keep them on both sides. We've seen communities with streets like this that may only have it on one side because your volume of pedestrian traffic, because the lots are, as Brooke said, quarter to half acre lots, you're going to have fewer people using those, as well as being, accessible to that open space where they may jump on a trail instead of utilizing the sidewalk. But we actually chose to keep it on both sides because we felt that it was an important component, trying to find that balance there.
Did that answer your question, or is there a follow-up?
That answered my question. Thank you.
No, thank you, Eric. I appreciate you doing that. And as Eric mentioned there, but I'll further the point is when you see the different colors, we're really trying to have those road cross sections and pedestrian accesses fit the demand. And so as they radiate outwards, that is smaller and it is pulled into the street. But if it's in the village core area or the traditional neighborhood, what we're calling traditional neighborhood, I understand terminology may be a little different here, then they would have the park strips to create a little bit more buffer between the vehicular and the pedestrian use, because they would be heavier pedestrian use there than they would necessarily be in the blue. Those were some of the topics that we wanted to put forth together this evening and to share with you our ideas and some of our discussions with the staff so far. I would love to entertain any further questions or further comments for us to take and to be considered as we continue to develop the PCD.
Can you maybe this Commissioner Musso one more time? So who did the feasibility study for this as far as determining what we're going to do and what kind of product mix we want? I mean, is this something that you guys just decided that we want to put in 1,000 nightly rental units and 760 multifamily types units and X number of large estate lots, or was there actually a feasibility study done as to what's needed in the area?
Yeah, so we use Metro Study and the folks over there at Zonda, and looking at the different types of and percentages of product that's being absorbed in the market and the price point of what it's being absorbed in. And
specifically for St. George, or is this a national type of deal?
Specifically for Washington County, which includes St. George and Washington City.
Brooke, where this you partnered up, maybe we could say, with Sitla, how much input involvement will they have, or have they had in the overall development here?
So they've kind of set the standards for us, and I don't, if they're on the line, they're more welcome to join the conversation here. But they set the standard as far as the quality of development. They've set the standard as far as water-wise use of water and the conservation efforts regarding water. That they have left up the development concept and the composition to us. But their standards and being their partner in a couple of other areas, I think, is fairly high. And we strive to not only meet those, but achieve those and exceed those wherever possible.
Can you walk me through your community park design? How much of that do you have set at this point?
Through this one component here only, or are you talking in general?
Well, so you have a couple of different parks in there, but one is looks like it's designed for the residents, or some of them are designed for the residents. One is a community park, correct?
Yeah. So this big area right here would be more of your traditional city park, where you have more active components, whether that's ball fields or tennis or pickleball, those types of things, playground areas. These other areas in here are more rest areas. As I mentioned, it's kind of patterned after the civic spaces and the community parks that are in places like Savannah. These would be maintained and owned by the HOA and the community here itself. This would be the only park here that would be owned and maintained by the city or Washington City as we're proposing.
So right, but are you proposing at this point any type of design for that community park, or is that not yet done?
No, it is not yet done. We're just addressing just the concept right now of that, and if the city park is to be designed and funded by impact fees, of course that will include the city is in part of that programming and design of that.
So Brooke, on the little neighborhood parks, community parks, I forget what you call them. So where that's maintained by the HOA, would that restrict just citizens of the community that come there?
Doesn't necessarily restrict the citizens of the community. These are just respite areas, and so whether there's fountains or a grass area where you can come out and throw the football or kick the ball around, those types of things, that's what they're primarily for. So there's not necessarily restrictions. It's just that they're small in nature and to be a respite for the neighbors in this general area to go to. As opposed to, say, the city park here, which is right off of a main thoroughfare. This is meant for everybody to be able to get to and from. These other areas are more of a walkable area where somebody can come down and meet and enjoy and be with their neighbors, but it does by no means precludes the general public from coming in and using it.
Any additional questions, comments? Jason?
This is Commissioner Hanson. I just had a question. I guess it's two of them. One of them is the golf course has kind of come and go in the conversation. And maybe I missed it. Is the golf course private? And is this project still viable without the golf course? And the second question I have is, as I've been on the Planning Commission now for about 3 years, I'm starting to lean to the side that I'm not interested in seeing more nightly rentals. And I'm kind of curious what this project would look like with a condensed version of that. Is it still viable, or what does that look like to drastically reduce that, just from my point of view?
Thank you. I appreciate the question. As we have looked at the fiscal impact, the overall fiscal impact of this project on the city, we've tried to strike a balance where it's there is a benefit, a net benefit, and a significant net benefit to the city from its overall uses. So I think they're a little bit interrelated here. If the golf course is not included in here and the nightly rental is not included in here, the project is still viable. It's just the amount of amenities and the amount of recreational components that are put in here would probably be reduced, because the carrying capacity from if a more traditional layout of 10 to 1,000 or larger square foot lots, just the demand on that would be less. And then the overall net impact to the city would probably be less as well. The nightly rental and some of the resort components in here have a high impact, meaning fiscal impact, net fiscal impact to the city and to the surrounding businesses. So it was our goal to try to find a significant impact there. And that's probably why you see the ratios that you do. So if that was to be eliminated, that impact and that fiscal benefit to the city would be reduced.
Thanks. This is Commissioner Hanson again. As you've been going through this, and I had a chance to review this before the meeting, I had this thought that kept coming to mind, and I'm not saying this to be an offensive statement, not at all. I'm just wondering if somebody was to come up to you that has seen this and said, it looks like you're bringing a version of Desert Color to Washington. What would you say about that?
I'd say that there are some components of this that are similar to what we've done in Desert Color, meaning some of the what I'm calling the traditional neighborhood composition of incorporating more housing types right next to one another. But I would also say that it's quite a bit different as well, as we don't have any estate residential or private areas or luxury resort hotels in that area. And I would also probably say from a value perspective, the views and the premiums that could be garnered here are going to be higher than they are at Desert Color.
So maybe a premium version of Desert Color would be somewhat fair.
Premium with additional products, yes.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Hey, Brooke, I'd like you just, if you wouldn't mind, for those of us here, could you expound a little bit on the luxury hotel? I'm just trying to compare it to something that I can relate to just understand a little bit about how that anchors this as a resort.
Yeah, so the hospitality use and the hospitality mentality in this area is what we're trying to incorporate, in meaning that the uses that a hotel brings not only provide services to the hotel guests that are there, but they also provide hospitality-centric uses for the residents and for the general community as well. Meaning there's a spa we can go to now. There's additional restaurants we can go to. There's the garden experience and the entertainment, as well as the boutique shops that would be done there in the buffer between the residential and the resort area. A lot of those guests support those shops that would normally otherwise be viable without that nightly guest there making that spend. So the residents who live in and around this area, as well as the rest of the community, get to enjoy those amenities and those experiences and those services that wouldn't necessarily be there without the hotel use. So we believe that that hotel and that resort component is vital to bring those in that are not being currently served in the area.
So nothing comparable in the area. And are we talking like 4-star, 5-star resort? I mean, how high-end luxury are you talking?
Yeah, I hesitate to say a star because everybody has their perception on whether a star is worth it or not.
Sure.
But the upper upscale resort hotel is the classification for it. So it's not a Ritz-Carlton, but it's pretty close. If you're talking like brand names, things like that.
And how large is it? Like how many rooms?
So the resort hotel is approximately 160 rooms in the main campus, and then about 100 rooms in the casitas around it, in the large format casitas around it. And when I say rooms, one casita could have 4 rooms in it, or one casita could have 2 rooms in it. So there's a variety of the different sizes to support the different sizes of families that would be traveling and want to stay there.
Okay, sorry. Say the number on the casitas again.
About 100 rooms on the casitas.
And is that what you're also in other places referring to as the nightly rental?
No, that's different. That's different. So the casitas are owned and maintained by the hotel. They're just detached hotel keys from the main building. They're just large format keys.
What's the proposed number on the nightly rentals then?
I think 700. I don't have the number in front of me. I apologize, but I think it's plus or minus 700 on the nightly rental. And if Eric and DeLoss have that number to clarify, they can give that to you.
I think that's pretty close.
Okay.
This is Commissioner Bullock. On the nightly rentals, you said that the hotel is going to manage those. So a private individual can buy them, and then the resort is in charge of renting them out and maintaining the common areas and the trash and all the pickup and all the problems that we hear about on the nightly rentals. Is that correct?
That is correct. Mm-hmm.
So would the resort decide which nightly rental got rented out?
There's different.
How does that work? Sorry,
Well,
maybe I'm in the weeds a little bit, but I'm just kind of curious how that works.
No, we can definitely have more discussion with you on how that works, but no, the customer chooses. So all those nightly rentals, if they're now, not all of them are going to be put in there in that they wouldn't necessarily all be in the pool. They still have a choice to be in the pool or not. And what we're seeing in most other areas, only about 60% of them actually go into the pool. About 40% of them don't. They just want to be in the resort area because they're close to the amenities and they have all of the services that are offered by the resort and by the hotel.
Okay, so then the resort would still take care of the upkeep of the of the HOA, essentially.
Yeah,
Correct?
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But
So
the
we don't have-
customer, but if you have a nightly guest, the customer chooses which one they're in.
Okay, yeah, I just want, that cleared up a lot for me. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, the goal is to not create a maintenance nightmare nor a policing nightmare because of the use. And having a single management company manage all of that and be responsible for it. And the club that all of those units would be in and around, and the fees that they pay to be part of that would take care of all of the upkeep.
So this is Commissioner Chill. Are you going to have your own security?
If it warrants it, yes, then resorts like this have their own security.
Let's talk about the more important thing, the golf course. Is it a full golf course or an executive golf course?
That's a good question. It is an executive golf course, and with limited turf.
So what that means for all those of you who don't know what an executive is, it's more of a par three, correct?
That is correct.
3 and
And
4.
yeah, and from all of our market studies that have been done, time is of a premium for everybody, whether we're on vacation or whether we live there full time. And while it's a sport and a component that we all like to do, or a growing number of people are like to do, they don't have time to spend on a full golf course. So that's the reason why this is deliberately designed as an executive, is due to the time constraint and of course space and water.
You ever stayed at the Camelback Inn in Scottsdale?
Real similar to that.
That's what this reminds me of. Yeah, me too. They have a little par three course. They've got rentals.
Mountain spa ones too.
Selfish. Any additional questions or comments? Is there more to the presentation? Did we cut you off at all, or?
Nope, just your feedback and direction from you and the rest of the planning commission members or staff that are present would be appreciated. Thank you for your time and consideration so far.
No, thank you, Brooke. If there's no additional questions or comments, we thank all of you for coming. I know that you've got other things to do, but we appreciate that. And we appreciate your comments, commissioners, and your questions, and council. Appreciate that. And the rest of you staff that are here to support and understand what's going on. And I will entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So made, Councilman Bundy.
Second, Councilman Ward.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Have a great evening, all of you.
And thank you. Appreciate your time.